So, Rob, you're hosting Comic Relief this year,
Well,
as we
I'm one
said
of them.
earlier.
There's always a lot of hosts.
There's a lot of them.
How long's your stint, do you know?
I think it's an hour or an hour and a half, something like that, yeah.
And, of course, it happens to be 25 years of Comic Relief this year.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And there's so many of these highlights you can think about over the years. The two I always remember is when Dawn French snogged Hugh Grant.
Oh,
Yes.
I remember that.
I thought that, I mean, I remember waiting, for that. And when Lenny did the thing with Tom Jones, when they did the singing thing, I always remember those moments.
Yeah.
But Comic Relief, always, the Red Nose Day, on the night, always has some of those special moments.
What have you got planned?
Yeah,
I can't tell you there. Well, there's big things, Matt. We're sitting on something big.
You sound vague, Rob.
I'm like a politician. I think it would be wrong at this stage to get into specifics. But let me say this, you won't be disappointed.
Oh.
Right, OK. And, of course, one of the big pushes this year, one of the main focuses of the campaign is malaria and preventing malaria.
Yes.
So you went out to Africa, and here's you with a mother and child affected by the disease.
Hey, hey, hey there. You're a smiler, aren't you? So we just found out that Asina here does have malaria, don't you? Yes. And if you're there thinking, what, my £5 doesn't really count, well, £5 would pay for a malaria net, a mosquito net, which may have stopped Asina getting malaria.
Oh, lovely little Asina. She's such a lovely girl. And
She was gorgeous. I mean, the thing is, her mother had brought her in quite early. It's really hard to do those things. And even now, as I'm sat here, you start to kind of feel it, because now that little girl was, the mother brought her in early, so she looked full of life and she was charming and a smiler. But the majority of the kids that they're bringing in are lifeless, limp little things. And we witnessed something, and I think it'll end up in one of the films we made, where they brought this little boy in, and they were trying to put a drip into him, an IV line in, and they're trying to find a vein, and they couldn't find one on the arms. So they were trying to get in through the head, the nurse tapping, trying to get this needle in, couldn't do it, trying on this side, tried the jugular, eventually got one in. And there's just lines of mothers with their children. So they get it in, then they give them a drip with the dextrose or hydration in it. The mother then, just as a matter of course, carries the child out to the ward, and don't think of the ward now as being lovely beds. It's awful.
Yeah.
And they haven't got enough drip stands for the drips. So you get 4 on one, and the mother's sitting on the floor. And these children, people are having the dinner now, but these children have problems with the waterworks and what have you. So that's all going on.
Yes.
Why?
It's a horrendous sight.
And you don't, I've watched these films and I've been affected by them, but when you're there and the smell. Oh, I mean, it was very hard. The trip was really
it stays
hard.
with you for a long time.
And of course, I mean, you're going to carry that through with you on the night as well. But the last time Comic Relief was on, £74.3 million on the night.
And then that figure goes up.
Yeah,
it is remarkable. But when you see, you see these films, and I've been privileged enough to go out and see it. The way we live here, I mean, I know you've been out, Alex.
Yeah.
You just can't compute, really. It's like another planet, not another continent. It's and the thing is that it doesn't have to be that way, especially with malaria, because that's very preventable. The nets, they cost £5.
Absolutely.
It's about educating and then giving the equipment that's needed.
Well, let's hope people will be as generous this year, isn't it?
I really hope so. I know these are difficult times, but by our standards, it's comparatively very little that one has to give to make a massive difference over there.
Completely.